Liza Lawrence here with Wonders and Miracles Podcast, Episode 12, Trust in the Lord. Welcome to Wonders and Miracles Podcast, where we celebrate miraculous moments in everyday lives. I'm your host, Liza Lawrence, a wife, mother, teacher, and miracle lover. If you're new to this podcast, here's what we do here. Each week, on Miracle Monday, we celebrate awe-inspiring true stories from regular people like you and me. People who have experienced something surprising and wonderful that could be considered the work of a divine source. My desire is to help us recognize God's hand and His love in our lives, because the more miracles we notice, the more miracles happen. Thanks for listening to the show. Now let's celebrate wonders and miracles together. Proverbs chapter 3, verses 5 and 6. Trust in the Lord with all thine heart, and lean not unto thine own understanding. In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy paths. So I'm really excited for today's episode. I'm interviewing a husband and wife, a couple who he's had brain cancer and his journey through that, and then their divinely orchestrated meeting and how they met and got married, and it's just a beautiful story. So I'm excited to share that with you. But first, a shout out from our sponsor, BibleDice.com. Have you ever opened the Bible to a random page to see what chance or providence had to say to you? Have you ever been led to read something that you needed in just that moment? Well, every time you click the Bible on BibleDice.com, a randomly selected scripture will appear. Hopefully, it's something you need to know or to be reminded of that day. On the website at BibleDice.com, you can also sign up to receive a daily Bible verse sent to you in your email. It's a perfect way to start each day. I know I look forward to reflecting on my daily scripture that I receive from BibleDice.com. So check that out and see if God has any messages for you. And a quick reminder for my huge giveaway this whole month. This entire month, I'm giving away Meditations on the Mount albums. I'll tell you more about that at the end, so stay tuned to see how you can get your free Meditations on the Mount album. All right, today I have Matt and Chris Pond, and they're going to share with us their journey, starting with Matt, his journey with a brain tumor, and then how his wife and he met. So thank you for being on the show, and let's hear your story.
Appreciate that. So 2006, life was great, except I was having some episodes when I played basketball. I loved basketball. I had some episodes of when I would play basketball, weird things would pop into my head that didn't make sense, and I would get tired. Mm-hmm. And I was just thinking that, boy, I need to eat better. I need to lose weight. I need to exercise, those kind of things. You know, I was 35 years old, and I was thinking, hey, you know what? I just need to do these things to get going. And I was going to school at Boise State, and I was just loving life.
When you say weird things would pop in your head, like thoughts or pains?
Thoughts, words that didn't make any sense at all.
Okay.
And I like these great big words that I still don't understand what they ever were. Uh-huh. And I was thinking, wow, why is that? Because I was going to school, but it started happening more and more in 2006. Again, tired. And so in May of 2006, it was happening every day then. And so on Memorial Day weekend, I went to the emergency room and had a CAT scan and an MRI on both of those. And the doctor says, you've got brain cancer. It was stage 2 to 3 in my temporal lobe. It was called a oleoastrocytoma glandioloma mix.
Wow.
Yeah.
There's the big words.
There's the big word. Yeah.
And the first surgery was the next day, and it was just an exploratory surgery to see what it was. And then afterwards he says, go have fun. We're going to take it out in a month. And so we had fun. My 3 oldest boys were 4, 1.5, and 5 months old.
Wow.
Yeah.
So little.
Yeah. And so we had a great month. Went in for my second surgery.
What were your odds when you got this brain cancer?
The odds were 3% within the first year, 3%, and then less than 1% after that to survive. And so it was a long shot, truly, and blessed like crazy to be one of the 1%.
And that 1% equates to about 1 in 1,225,000 for survival odds for this type of cancer. So I always tell him he's 1 in a million.
I love that. So what were you feeling and thinking when you first were diagnosed with this cancer and understood your odds of survival and facing death?
I always tried to be positive about it. I wanted to live. And so I would try to be positive about everything, even though the odds and people would say, you're going to die. And I trusted like crazy in the Lord, and the help came.
It was such a great thing because at that time, again, I just didn't know if I'd be alive. And then I had this dream that I saw me and I saw my 3 boys, and they were older, and there were 2 other children. And then I looked up and it was somebody else with blue eyes.
His first wife didn't have blue eyes. So just,
okay.
He was still married at the time. Were you still married?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I was thinking, wow, cool. It was a great thing because at that time, everybody was saying, you're going to die.
Yeah.
And that dream helped me out to think, wow, this is a cool thing.
Mm-hmm.
So
and maybe something to live for too.
Oh, yes, indeed.
Something in the future. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so for my second surgery, they said you might not be able to read again. And it happened to where my second surgery, in fact, there was a nurse that came into the room and says, do you know what this letter is? And she held up an M. And I said, I have no idea. She said, can you see what you'd like to eat on a menu? And I couldn't. And then shortly after that, I was on chemotherapy and radiation. And so that even got me a little more messed up. Chemo brain. Mm-hmm. For me, it was a tough thing because I had always been outgoing and doing all kinds of great stuff. And now I felt like if I say anything, I didn't even know if it was true or false.
Uh-huh.
The second surgery also took away my kind of reasoning to where I couldn't remember if I liked things.
Really?
Like I remember one afternoon, I had my youngest son with a little stroller, and we were going on a little walk, and it started to rain. And I was looking and I said, who likes the rain? And then I thought, wait a second, I like the rain. And so things like that. So it was a tough thing. And then 7 months into the cancer, it starts the beginning of a divorce then. And the doctors saying there's nothing more they could do.
Did they get the tumor out the first time or
They said that they got it out, but it's growing back and there's nothing more that they could do. This was after 1 round of chemo and radiation. Mm-hmm. And I had asked them several times, can we do 1 more surgery? And he says, sorry, there's nothing. Literally kiss your kids goodbye. There's nothing we can do. And so dealing with losing my kids in a divorce plus trying to stay alive was a tough thing.
I'll bet.
And all of 2007, it was a battle to even see my kids. And so it was a tough time for my boys. It was a tough time for me. And then in August of 2007, I was going down fast and I was feeling like I was going to die to the point where one Sunday I felt like if I were to go to sleep, I'd never wake up. So I was in an apartment as close as I could to my boys. And there was a high school right next to me. And I went to the high school track in the middle of the night and walked the track all night long.
Wow.
I was praying like crazy. I was just talking with the Lord and thinking, if I'm supposed to die, will you please watch over my boys? But boy, if I'm supposed to live, I need some help fast. And around the track all night. At about 2 a.m, I called my mom and told her I don't feel like I'm going to be around much longer. I just didn't know what to do.
Mm-hmm.
I was at the end of everything, and I was kind of frustrated, and I was trying to figure out, and I didn't want to die. And then I called my sister at about 5 a.m. from that track, and I said, hey, can you take me to the emergency room just so that I can go kind of get some relief? So she did. And about 3 or 4 days later, I get a call from one of my brothers, and he said that he had been talking to a doctor at the Huntsman.
Mm-hmm.
And he said he wants to meet me. And that day, my brother had a ticket on the airplane, and I went to the Huntsman, and the Dr. Glantz came, and he said, Matt, you have cancer. But he said, if you were to die right now, it's because you have 3 cysts in your brain, and there's no place for them to go. He said, if we can have one more surgery to remove the cysts, then we will take care of the cancer. No problem. Mm. And then he said, can you come and see me every once in a while for the next 30 years?
Oh, wow.
And I started to bawl. And then I said, can we make it 50 years?
Uh-huh.
And so I was so excited. I went back to Boise, played as much as I could with my boys, and got pictures with them. And I couldn't tell them what was going on, but it felt so great that I was going to live.
Mm-hmm.
And so the next week I had my 3rd surgery now. And when I woke up from the surgery, I could no longer walk. My whole right side was paralyzed.
Mm.
And so I had a pity party for myself. And I was thinking, well, why is this happening to me? But then it was about a half hour that I was feeling sorry for myself. And I thought, but wait a second, I'm alive. Mm-hmm. And I'm so thankful to be alive. Then I thought, okay, what can I do with what I have? And so I went and had therapy there at the University of Utah. And I mean, they were helping me with my reading, my writing, my understanding things, plus my right side and getting that going. And by the end of the 3 weeks, I could walk with a cane and with a brace in my foot. And they then started doing some more chemotherapy to try to get rid of the cancer. 4.5 years later, and 8 different kinds of chemo through the whole thing, they found one that worked.
Wow.
So in December of 2010, they gave me a little plaque and said, you are cancer free. And through that time, I was learning with my one hand how to do things so that I can drive. And one of the biggest things throughout that is learning how to play the guitar. I love the guitar. I love to sing. So I was able to learn ways to be able to play the guitar and things like that. And I needed that guitar going because about 10 months after I finished up my treatment, I went to a dance, a Halloween dance, and this beautiful girl was at this dance in a little pumpkin costume. I was all out. I was from the Wizard of Oz. I was the Scarecrow, because he doesn't have a brain.
Right.
And,
so appropriate.
Yeah, that's right. And I saw this beautiful girl, and I got to dance with her one whole time, and I can remember everything about her but her name. The brain thing, And so I was trying like crazy to find her name. I knew that she worked at BYU, Idaho. And so I went to a friend of mine that she knew me forever, and I said, I need a name of all of the single women at BYU, Idaho.
That is so cute.
Yeah. But
I'm just glad that he didn't get the list because he might have found somebody else he liked better before he got the J's.
And well, she wouldn't give it to me. And I was I said, why? And she says, HIPAA laws, man.
Oh, yeah. The privacy.
Yeah.
And I was like, but you know me, I'm a good guy, And she said, sorry, man. But she said, if it's supposed to be, it'll happen. And I came out of her office, and I was pretty sad about the whole thing. And as I walked out, Chris was right there.
No way.
True story. And I was like, whoa. And she was talking to another guy.
My boss.
Yeah, I didn't know it at the time. I just saw her and I was like, oh my goodness, man. And so I said, were you at the dance? Yeah. Hey, trying to be as nonchalant.
Casual.
Yeah. And
I wasn't looking for you.
And I said, yeah, it was great. I don't remember your name. And she said, Chris. And I said, hey, Chris, good to see you again. And I left. I went into my car and I started writing down Chris. And I was like, Chris, does it start with a CH? Is it a K? So I went home that night and I wrote a letter to Chris. A letter just about, it was a wonderful dance. Nice to meet you. I'd love to go out with you again. And if you don't want to, I totally understand. And I gave her a CD and I gave her one of my business cards. And I went back to my friend the next day and I said, her name is Chris. Can you give this to her?
That's so cute. Why do you think you were so drawn to her?
You know what? She had a great spirit about her. Yeah, because I'd been to several of these dances and
I'd only been to one, and I was committed never to go again.
Really?
Ever.
See, I think that there's probably divine orchestration happening behind the scenes.
Yes.
Absolutely. And so, and I was praying, even before the dance, I was praying, Holy Father, please, can you help me find my wife? And I'd been on other dates and I'd done other things through this cancer thing, but I was like, saw her and anyway, it was wonderful.
Chris, tell us your perspective on that whole meeting.
So, like was said about the dance, I had been to one other singles dance, and I was 36, and I had never married, and I dated quite a bit. In fact, I'd just come out of a long-term but disastrous relationship, and I went to this first dance in August, and I was like, I'll never go again. Like, I'll never go again. And my girlfriend prevailed, and she said, well, different people come out to the holiday parties. I'm like, that's what I'm worried about.
Those different ones.
If it's already bad in August, what's going to happen for Halloween? So anyway, I walked in and Matt was my first dance, and we don't even remember what song it was we danced to. But we just hit it off instantly. I had lived in Boston. So here's the Lord orchestrating things in our lives. My job in Boston was working in a major cancer clinic. And so I worked in oncology for nearly 3 years living in Boston. And I had just moved back to take a job at BYU, Idaho to be closer to family about 2 years prior to meeting Matt. Anyway, we started talking about it. And he said, I live by Boston as well. And so we started talking about it. And I said, I love Boston so much. I'm going to name one of my children Boston. He said, I have a son named Boston.
No way.
So I always tell our boss, I said, you were prepackaged for me.
Oh, I love that.
Anyway, I danced with other people all night. And I actually, from that dance, there are a couple of other people I started dating because of it. So I was taking a broad swatch. After my previous experience, I was like, I'm not narrowing it anymore. I cannot waste time with someone who's not going to progress. So I'm just going to take a broad swatch. So I was actually dating a lot of people at that time. And Matt was so persistent and so cute. We laugh about it sometimes because he would call me and I seriously somebody would be at my house in my driveway texting me like, where are you? And Matt is calling me saying, hey, I'm in town. Can I visit with you? And I'm having to choose. And so I went and met Matt in a parking lot, just sitting there and talking in his car because I couldn't go home because somebody was at my house waiting for me to come home.
Oh my goodness.
But on our first date, I realized that he couldn't read well. We went to the Pineapple Grill, and that's a sushi bar.
That's
Hawaiian
my favorite place.
I know. We love that it's our first because we always get to go back. But when I handed him the menu, I could tell that he was scanning it. But you know what those words look like in sushi Hawaiian names.
Lokahi roll. Or
Yeah. And he said, I trust you. You've been here before. Just pick something that he goes, I like everything. And so I kind of figured that maybe that was a struggle for him. But I'll tell you, I was raised, my mother had polio as a child, but my mother has had a limp all of her life. And she has struggled with her mobility. And it was just second nature for me when I walked with Matt to observe what might be obstacles. You know what I mean? Like I was just prepared to help him over things that I would have done for my mom. But that also allowed me to view him as a whole person. I never saw him as disabled or incapable. And I believe that was just a gift, that I was raised in the home I was with the mother I was, so that I could see him as a whole person. And I just didn't even know how good it would get, you know, because when I met him, he was still stumbling on words and having a hard time remembering things, and his speech was very broken. And I actually had one of the girls in the singles group said, "That's so nice of you to go out with him. It must be hard having brain damage." Wow. I said, "He doesn't have brain damage. He had brain cancer." And I think, you know, some of my other friends, they were at first like, "Oh, that's not who I imagined you with." And I just said, "You have no idea." But since that time, and as we've, you know, continued with these friendships and hung out with them, they're like, "Oh man, you are so lucky," because I just unearthed a gold mine. But there were some things that were challenging about it. From all the guys I was dating, Matt very quickly rose to the surface as just the most sincere and kind and generous guy. And he would just do the nicest things for me. And so just a series of things made me feel like he will always take good care of me, and just is so wonderful and so good. So anyway, we got engaged, and well, no, he actually.
I want to get married like, hey.
The day you met her.
He proposed 3 times, and I said no the first couple because I was still kind of wrestling with, of course, I'd worked in oncology. I knew the likelihood of him being in the clear after only 10 months was slim. And I worried about a recurrence. I thought, I've waited all my life to marry this wonderful man, and then his cancer is going to come back and I'm going to lose him. And I worried about not being able to have children. And they had gone to fertility doctors who had given them no hope when he was still married to his first wife. And I thought, oh, I've always wanted to have children. I know I'm old, I'm 37, but I just want to have children. And I didn't want to marry someone who was divorced with children. Not that the children were the problem, because I love them and we hit it off famously, and we always have. We have always had a great relationship. But I knew from some of my friends' marriages that the struggles with the ex-spouse and the sharing time and some of those things were hard. But Matt has never, ever spoken unkindly or been mean in any way. And I thought, it was pretty rocky, and she did kind of some tough stuff to him when he was going through his cancer. And I thought, if he can't be unhappy with her, he'll never be mad at me.
Yeah, you can win every time.
And I thought, I can handle it, the struggles of shared custody. But we have a great relationship with those big boys, and so grateful. I love them. I call them my bonus boys. I've never referred to them as stepchildren, because they got me a jump start on this beautiful family. And I hope they always know that they were prayed for and desired, and they gave me the opportunity to be a mother. But I had a really special experience where I just came to realize and know that if I married Matt, I used to tell him my concerns. He said, I can't control any of that, but trust in the Lord, and he knows. And so I had a really neat experience where all of a sudden I just realized if I married Matt, it would all be taken care of. I would have my own children to add to our posterity, and that I would just trust that the Lord could keep him well. And so I went back to his house, and I was on my way back from Utah, and I stopped by his house. I said, okay, I'm ready to marry you. And while we were engaged, we actually went to a fertility doctor to just see what the chances are. And they said, you know, you have a really low sperm count and chances are not good, but give it a year. I said, I'm 37. We're not giving it a year. We're giving it 3 months. Right. So we were a little nervous because we thought this was going to be a real battle to conceive children of our own. But he had a lot of confidence and faith in the dream that he had had. And, you know, initially when we were dating, I'm like, well, maybe you met somebody who already had kids. You know, maybe that's how you got those extra children. Mm-hmm. But he was sure, and he just stuck with it. You know, he's like, no, I believe I'm going to have other children. And so we got married, and about a month after we were married, we went to girls' camp. I was the young women's president, so over the young women organization of the church, and we went to girls camp and worked hard, and we'd just come out of a whirlwind of our wedding and everything we were doing. And we spent a week at our cabin after girls camp, and I was so tired and sleeping all the time. And Matt said, do you think that maybe we're pregnant? And I was like, what? So while we were at the cabin, we got a pregnancy test. We were there for the 4th of July, and I felt like those fireworks were just for us.
Oh,
Our sweet little boy came as a honeymoon baby, and
I love that.
and I'm just so grateful that the Lord knows. And thank goodness I didn't leave it to my better judgment, or my worst judgment for that matter, to try to determine the outcome of my life, because it wasn't the picture I had painted, but it turned out way better.
And it usually does when we let God guide us. So,
Yeah.
And you have a baby girl too.
Yes, we have a little boy and a little girl, and we've had 2 miscarriages, but we're grateful for the 2 miracles we have, and to know that it was possible. You know, in my old age and his recovering from cancer, it's possible because we just trusted that the Lord, Matt always says doctors know a lot, but they don't know everything.
What gave you that faith, Matt?
You know, the Spirit, the Lord, He's in charge. The doctors, they saved my life, and I'm so thankful for that. But the Lord, He's the one that put us all here.
He's the master healer.
And and in fact, I've had some amazing blessings from people in our church, and they just have done amazing things about that. I could do great things regardless of this right side and my reading and my writing. And they said, still keep working on that, but you're going to do great things. And so I'm so thankful, of course, for the doctors, but I'm so thankful for a higher power that's bigger than any of us, to know that He is there watching over us.
Mm-hmm. So Matt, you have a website called mattpondsurvivor.com. Tell us about that.
I do performances. I'm working right now on Christmas shows, and I've been doing it for a while, but I do presentations, keynote speaker things.
Firesides, school assemblies, he's done it all.
And I change it up depending on the people that I'm doing it for, but it's about going through life and enjoying what you have, because you never know when life is done. And so enjoy every day. I do it with great music. I do it with my one-handed guitar playing and jokes and great things. I love doing shows.
And he is really funny and so darling. I was like, he has the audience from tears to laughter throughout the whole performance. And it gets me every time. And I've seen dozens of them, and I love them.
I want to come. When's your next show? Do you have one scheduled?
Here, we have some out of town.
I've got a couple out of town, yeah. Hopefully through your broadcast here, we can get some more shows around here.
And how far are you willing to travel?
You know what? I've done Boise area and down in Utah, and then I did one in South Carolina. So if there's a way to get there, I would love to do a show.
All right. Well, that's mattpondsurvivor.com, the website.
Yep. You can either email me, or I've got my phone number there.
Wonderful. Do you ever have bad days?
So I have good days and I have better days, but I don't have bad days. Life is too short to have a bad day. So I try to find anything I can to think, no, this is a good day. Even when it may be a tough day, I try to think, no, life is great.
I have a quote that says, today is a good day to have a good day. And I think if we all had that perspective, this world would be very different if every day was a good day and we found the good in those days. So anything else you want to add?
No, I just appreciate that you're doing this, Liza, because I think sometimes we overlook even the small little miracles in our lives. Of course, we remember the big ones, but there are miracles that happen all the time. Mm-hmm. That if we recognize the Lord's hand and how He's directing and guiding our lives, how much more confidence would we have in the future? And just know that great things, in fact, we're doing a training right now in our work, that things will come about by how we talk about them. And that's what I really think Matt is good at. He's always been optimistic, and he's always felt like he was going to have complete healing. And I'm so glad to be on the ship with him.
Well, thank you both for sharing your journey and your story and the amazing miracles that have taken place to put you two together.
Thanks, Liza.
Weren't they beautiful? I just think if we had more people like that and more couples like that on the planet, we would be in a very different world. Thank you both for sharing. So a reminder to support the podcast by doing 3 things. Make sure you subscribe. Go and give the podcast a 5-star rating if you love it. Write a review. And I'm finding that the ratings and reviews are on Apple iTunes. So if there's a podcast app from iTunes and Stitcher, those are the 2 that I've been able to find where to write a review or a rating. So if you're listening on Spotify or Google Play, it looks like there's nowhere to give a review. So if you want to still support the podcast, try and jump onto iTunes and write a review there. I'm going to go ahead and put a tutorial on my Instagram account to show you how to write a review from iTunes on my highlights. So you can check out that story. Also follow me on Instagram at Wonders and Miracles, or like my page on Facebook, Wonders and Miracles. Those ways you can support. Which, speaking of that, on those 2 pages for the whole month of November, I am doing a massive giveaway for Meditations on the Mount albums, either the regular one or the one for children. There's instructions on both of those pages for how to receive either one of those albums. The goal here, my desire here, is to spread the word about this podcast. I truly want to reach millions of people, if possible, to preach the gospel of Christ, to let them know that the Lord is very much present in our lives. He's aware of us, He loves us, He's helping us and guiding us, and that we can trust in Him. I can bear testament of this, that the Lord is directing our paths. I've seen it too many times in my own life, and all the miracle stories that I hear from you guys, it's happening. He's directing our paths. So my goal is to share that message with the world and to help them be aware that the Lord is here and He's directing them. So as a thank you for helping me share that message, I'm offering a free Meditations on the Mount album to all those that are willing to spread the word and share my podcast on their social media and to their friends so that we can get more listeners, more stories, and more support that way. So thank you so much for everyone and their help. And as a thank you, I'm going to give a shout out to Suzanne this week, who wrote a review. She says, 5-star rating. I love your podcast. This one was my first, and it was so uplifting and encouraging. Thanks for your strong voice for wonders and miracles, which bless our lives constantly. Kudos to you. Please keep them coming. Thanks, Suzanne, for that rating and that review. And I plan on keeping them coming, but we need more people. So spread the word. Tell everyone you know. Like the scripture says in Proverbs chapter 3, 5, and 6, trust in the Lord with all thine heart, and lean not unto thine own understanding. In all thy ways acknowledge Him, and He shall direct thy paths. I'm so grateful to spend time with you this week, and remember to celebrate and notice the miracles around you, because the more miracles we notice, the more miracles happen.